Can you tell us your name and your job and who you are?
Sure. My name is Liz Callahan, and I am the Senior Vice President and General Counsel for Baptist Healthcare Corporation in Pensacola. Baptist has several hospitals and physician practices. We also have Lakeview Center. It's a wide variety of things that we do. I have two young children, one about to start high school and one in the 6th grade. And my husband is a local dentist.
You're so fancy. I know it's almost Christmas break, but we will ask, besides not having a job, what is the favorite thing about your job?
Favorite thing about my job is the variety. So you never know what's going to hit you when you walk in the door. I have a schedule and meetings and things like that, but every single day is unique. I don't practice on one area of law. It's literally everything all day long. So that keeps it interesting and never get bored.
That's good, because I have talked to a couple people that have different jobs, and some people like that repetition of the same thing every day.
Yeah.
That would kill me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's good to know if you like variety and what
Yes.
challenges.
Yes. And surprises.
And surprises. So
Crises.
Let me ask you a question about this. Is that almost in every type of law, or in different law do you find different challenges?
I think it depends on the type of law you do. So
Okay.
if you work for a firm and do corporate law, it's going to be a lot of the similar stuff every day. Working in-house anywhere is probably going to be a lot more variety, and certainly working in a hospital is going to be a ton of variety. So it really depends on the kind of stuff you do, I think.
Okay. So what is your favorite subject in school when you were back in high school?
In high school, I've always loved English, always. So I like reading. I loved writing, which is actually how I found my way into law school.
Okay.
I graduated from college with an English degree and had no idea what to do with it. So
Okay.
I thought I'll just try law school. And those skills served me well. Writing and reading obviously served me well in law school. So here I am.
So you didn't go to college and say, I want to be a lawyer?
Definitely not. I had no idea what I wanted to do, really, throughout my 4 years of college.
Okay.
And I just graduated with this degree and thought, we'll try out taking the LSAT. And then I got into law school, and then the rest is history.
There you go. Okay, and what schools did you go to?
I went to undergrad at UNC at Chapel Hill, and then to law school at the University of Florida.
Very nice. So what, and I think you've hit this, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to expand on, is what is a normal day like?
A normal day, if there is one, I come in to work around 8 o'clock. I usually have pretty much back-to-back meetings,
Okay.
lots of meetings, lots of phone conferences, sometimes with other lawyers, sometimes with people who work at the hospital. And then somewhere throughout the day, I generally have a little bit of desk time where I'm actually looking at a contract or something, like actually drafting something myself. And then a lot of email. I've spent a lot of time answering email. So it doesn't sound very exciting, but it's all interesting subjects. So
Are you typically always within the hospital? Are you traveling to different hospitals?
that's a good question. I do travel a little bit to our different facilities. One thing I personally like about this job, it is not a lot of travel. Like I don't have to leave town.
Okay.
I don't have to work a lot on the weekends or a lot of late nights. So I will go to various facilities, but I don't have to travel a lot for my job, which for where I am right now, that's a good thing.
Okay. So obviously you need to go to college and you need a law degree.
Right.
Is there other professions within the law field or people that assist you in doing your job? If this still sounds interesting, but maybe they're not sure that
Sure.
a lawyer is what they want. Are
Sure.
there other support things where you can be in this type of field as well?
Absolutely. So just in the pure legal field, we have paralegals, legal secretaries, but my department here is actually pretty broad. And so we have a lot of people who brush up against the legal field. So risk managers, for example, they report to me. That's a whole nother field. Very interesting, has a crossover into the law, but it's not a legal degree. So risk managers, I have claims managers that handle our claims when we get sued. They function sort of like insurance adjusters or like a claims manager would for any other insurance company. I have auditors, I have compliance analysts. All of those jobs are very closely related to the legal field, which is why they report to me. So They're different. They all have different educational backgrounds, but really we're all kind of swimming in the same direction and work together in that department.
So are any of those 2-year degrees, or are most of those 4?
So some of them don't. Some of them are 2-year degrees. So you can be a risk manager. I'm not even sure you have to have a degree to that, but I think you can have a 2-year degree. Compliance analysts and auditors, they don't all have 4-year degrees. We look for that generally speaking, but paralegals don't have to have 4-year degrees, and many of them don't. Legal secretaries don't have to have 4-year degrees, and many of them don't. And frankly, those are really valuable people that are sometimes hard to find. So it's a great field to go into.
So going to that, what is the salary range? And I don't know if you want to talk about those others and then what you can do with a lawyer. What is the salary range?
So as a lawyer, it's very different if you want to be in private practice. You could make bajillions of dollars depending on what kind of law you go into. If you're going to go into an in-house setting, what people usually say is you're never going to make that level of money. The opportunities aren't as high for you, but it's well paid. I mean, for a healthcare system, depending on the size of the system, or any company, how much you make as a general counsel really depends on how big your system is. So if you're $1 billion a year company, you may make something. If you work for a giant system, you're making millions of dollars. So it's probably anywhere from about $250,000 to several million if you work for a big company like Google or Microsoft. And then in terms of the sort of paralegal profession, in Pensacola, people make a little bit less money than they do elsewhere, but those can be very high paid jobs, 6-figure jobs. If you're a litigation paralegal, you're working hours almost like a lawyer, you're doing legal level work, and you're making pretty good money, 6 figures. Legal secretaries is more in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, sometimes lower depending on where you work.
Okay. What about the risk and the compliance?
Risk managers and there's all kinds of different risk managers, but in the healthcare field, they can make $100,000. From anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000, even a little more than $100,000.
That's impressive. Okay, so about your job, what do people find hard about your job?
The hardest thing about my job is that I serve sort of 2 different hats, and that can be very difficult. So one of my hats is being a business partner to the executives who work here in operations. I have to help them accomplish their jobs. So when they want to do something, my job is to help them get it accomplished in a legal and compliant way. And that's most of what I do. But you also have to wear the hat of being the cop sometimes, of saying, I know you want to do that, but you really can't, and I'm not going to let you do that. So that can be awkward, and that's difficult to navigate sometimes. Fortunately, where I work, I don't have to play the bad cop very frequently, but that is probably the most difficult thing about being in-house counsel. That's what I think all of my peers would say.
Okay. And then finally, we always talk about chain reaction is this, you have your GPA, but to get that first job and even that second and third job, there's so many other things. So what else helped you besides your GPA in maybe even determining law school, or once you're in law school, or getting this job? What helped you get there?
Right. That is a very good question. So like I mentioned, going to law school, that's really dependent upon your LSAT grade and a little bit of your GPA, but that LSAT is very, very important. Okay. So I spent a lot of time studying for that. And got into law school that way. And then as far as getting my job, I hate to say it, but a lot of that was connections. I moved back to a town where my husband grew up, and there happened to be some people I knew from law school here that he knew. They got me an interview, and that's how I got my job at my first firm. And then I developed a relationship with Baptist as a client in that firm, and eventually Baptist asked me to come in-house. That's a very common path for in-house lawyers. They work for the company as part of a law firm, and they get to know the client, build relationships with them, build trust, and then the client says, why don't you just come work directly for us? That's what happened to me.
So it's that network, because I know when we've heard some others, it was like, you might want to go work there. So it's not as much the experience, but getting your foot in the door is having some type of network. So even the network they're forming now could pay dividends later.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. You never know what kind of connection will pop up in a job interview or serve you down the road.
Okay, that was it, Liz. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We appreciate it.